I think the task of trying to be an accurate pre-election poll, people don't realize how complicated that is and how difficult that is. You don't know who's going to show up on election day or vote early until it actually happens. And so as a pollster, you have this added degree of difficulty, and then the stakes are really super high, right? So a lot of elections nowadays are really close contests. And so if you get things off by 1 point or 2 points, that can make a tremendous difference. That level of difficulty, I don't think is really fully appreciated. And sometimes I think we overinterpret how precise we can be with these particular polls. One thing we were trying to do in the task force is try to figure out, like, just descriptively what happened. Like, where were the errors the largest? In what races, in what states? So one thing that we found pretty robustly is that the larger errors occurred in states that were more pro-Trump. It seemed very suggestive that the people who were taking polls in 2020 was not really representative of the overall electorate. And in particular, there seemed to be a large number of supporters of President Trump who voted but refused to participate in polling in 2020. You had all this kind of perfect storm about, you had a candidate that's telling its supporters not to take polls, and so some fraction of them may decide not to participate in polls. You had a completely new set of election procedures in a lot of different states, particularly in the critical states, that made it more complicated to estimate who was going to vote. And then you knew there's lots of Democratic enthusiasm, so were Democrats too eager to take polls and tell someone that they're going to vote against President Trump? And so all those different factors made the order difficulty, which is already a hard process, even greater to try to figure out, especially if you're trying to get elections that are between like 1 or 2 points. Like, you think about trying to do that, and like that's a nearly impossible task. Polling errors affect elections in a lot of different ways. It affects coverage of elections. Races that aren't thought to be close, right, don't get a lot of attention. Polling drives not only media coverage of the election, but it also drives the amount of support that parties and candidates are able to get from donors. The cost of getting polling wrong is huge, because if you're trying to allocate all of the millions of dollars, which candidate you give that money to could have a real impact on who wins and who loses. And so if the information that you're making those decisions based on is erroneous or is incomplete, then you could be kind of giving money to the wrong candidates or not supporting the candidates that you ought to be supporting to help them get elected. And that could have huge consequences on who gets elected and the balance of power in the House and the Senate.